The war between Taiwan and China is already going on, right at this second. In fact, it has never stopped, because both the government on the mainland and the government on the island consider themselves Chinese. The state on Taiwan is called the Republic of China, and across the strait from it is the People's Republic of China. The Taiwanese Minister of Foreign Affairs stated that they are preparing for military confrontation with China in 2027. American intelligence, however, believes that Xi Jinping will definitely try to conquer the island before that time. Well, there are certain circumstances that may instill confidence in Xi. China's military budget is almost $300 billion, while Taiwan's is only $19 billion. The Chinese army is the largest in the world, with 2.5 million soldiers compared to 165,000 Taiwanese. Total advantage in armored vehicles, aviation, artillery, and ultimately nuclear weapons would seem to leave no chance for the islanders to fend off the Red Dragon, but they have been successfully doing this for over 70 years and do not plan to surrender. We will tell you how the small Taiwanese army plans to contain the countless hordes of communists from the mainland, what America will do in the event of an open aggression by the Reds, and what new defense plan the Taiwanese strategists have come up with after seeing the war in Ukraine. But first, like and subscribe to our channel. Our audience is growing, so right where you are watching from. The United States have supported Taiwan since the time of active hostilities between the Kuomintang Party and the Chinese Communists. In 1958, in the midst of the Cold War, the Americans even deployed nuclear weapons in southern Taiwan. This was insurance against the Chinese People's Liberation Army being able to invade the island. Despite the fact that in 1971, the UN, including the US, recognized the Communists rather than Taiwan as the representative of China, the Americans did not abandon their support for the island. In 1979, the US adopted the Taiwan Relations Act, which allowed for increased cooperation in the military sector. NATO institutions, including the Defense College and Military School, are also actively operating on the island. U.S. Army military exercises also regularly take place on the island. Fortunately for Taiwan's democratic government, the Americans continue to supply them with weapons: Apache helicopters, Harpoon missiles, Patriot anti-aircraft batteries, and more. All this was supplied to the Taiwanese forces in the 2000s. In addition to the Americans supplying the Taiwanese with their military equipment, they also provided a license for the production of this equipment. That is, the equipment manufactured in Taiwan is just as awesome as in the US. Particular attention should be paid to the Mobile Thunderbolt 2000 multiple launch rocket system. Its key feature is that it is designed specifically for targeting amphibious landing forces. I do not envy the communists who try to test any Taiwanese weapons produced under a US license. In addition, Taiwan also manufactures small arms, ammunition, and armored vehicles. As for Army pistols, the Taiwanese are in the process of transitioning from their usual M1911s to the domestically produced T75, which is based on the famous Italian Berettas. But all this equipment will be of no use in battles with the Communist Army of China if it is not used by well-trained and motivated soldiers. Throughout the Cold War period, there was mass conscription of men in Taiwan. As early as the 1990s, the Taiwanese began a transition to a smaller but professional army. This was due to the disappearance of such a powerful factor of instability as the USSR, as well as the development of technology and the desire to improve the quality of soldier training. In 1999, Taiwan began shortening the term of military service. So, in 2013, out of the 24 months a Taiwanese man had to serve in the military, only 4. But everything changed in recent years. In December 2022, the government announced a reorganization of the Army. Conscription for 12 months was restored. The Army itself is now divided into 4 categories. The first category is the main combat troops, which will bear the main brunt of active combat operations. The second category is the garrison troops. They consist mainly of conscripts who guard infrastructure facilities. The next category is reservists, who are to replenish the first two categories in case of losses. The last category is the civil defense system. It includes those who were exempted from military service due to health or other reasons. However, they must participate in providing medical assistance and logistical support to the other categories. It is worth noting that since 2023, women have been allowed to serve in the military, and they now make up 15%. However, the Navy and Air Force play a much more important role in the defense of Taiwan. The Navy of the Republic of China, which is the official name of Taiwan's naval forces, has transformed from the most neglected part of the defense forces into the most important one in recent decades. They now have 28 ships, including destroyers, frigates, and even submarines. The island's flotilla also has many missile boats, patrol, and landing craft. The main goal of the Taiwanese Navy is to counter blockade and invasion by China. In addition to the naval aviation, the Air Force of the Republic of China, which has over 600 aircraft and continues to grow, helps them achieve this goal. The bulk of the islanders' aviation consists of the famous American F-16s and domestically produced Taiwanese aircraft that are their analogs. It is these aircraft that are supposed to intercept Chinese long and medium-range ballistic missiles, but not only them. This is the Patriot surface-to-air missile system. During the Russian-Ukrainian War, it destroyed dozens of Russian hypersonic Kinzhal missiles that were considered invulnerable. As of 2023, 72 such systems were already in service on the territory of Taiwan. But the Taiwanese government considers this insufficient. That is why they are purposefully working on their own Skybow anti-aircraft missile systems, which are partially based on technologies obtained from the US for the Patriot, which is why they have some visual similarity. But what is the Taiwanese defense plan? Surely not just to sit on the island and shoot down Chinese missiles. Well, almost. If you really simplify the classic strategic plan of the Taiwanese military leaders, it is to hide behind the mountains. Yes, that's right. An entire army was supposed to act like that. This is the base of the Taiwanese Air Force near the foothills of the mountains on the east coast. Fighter jets and anti-ship missiles are stored in bunkers built in the mountains. Considering the Chinese attempt to take control of the entire island, or at least its airspace, the Taiwanese must hold out until the Americans come to their aid. But modern Taiwanese military officials consider this strategy outdated. The whole problem is that the technological progress of the Chinese army allows it to more effectively attack the eastern coast of the island. This is confirmed by the constant flights of Chinese aircraft and drones that circumnavigate Taiwan from all sides. In addition, the communists are actively practicing a blockade system of the island to prevent the Americans from coming to help. To do this, they will use long-range missiles, first blocking the sea approaches to the island. Taiwanese military officials believe that they should not rely too much on allies. First of all, because the Americans have never committed themselves to definitely sending their troops to help. Secondly, the U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump, who has a good chance of winning the election, has repeatedly made statements about the need for America to isolate itself from military problems in other parts of the world. It is hard to imagine him sending aircraft carriers to the shores of the island. Taiwanese military officials are currently developing a strategy that will allow them to effectively confront a technologically and numerically superior enemy. Ukraine's experience is helping the Taiwanese in this. In early 2022, Russian military columns invaded the territory of Ukraine. Columns of hundreds of Russian tanks were heading for Kyiv, but were burned down with the help of small man-portable Javelin, NLAW, and Stinger anti-tank missile systems. So the Taiwanese also want to move away from relying on large armored vehicles to creating mobile groups that can operate throughout the country and effectively destroy occupiers. However, most experts agree that without direct assistance from the US, Taiwan is unlikely to be able to hold off China. It is worth noting that if the US government does decide to attack the communist aggressors, they will be able to do so literally in the same second. The reason is that the US has a military base in the northern Philippines. So American HIMARS systems will be able to hit southern Taiwan directly from there. Despite the numerical advantage, the communists from the mainland should think twice before messing with the democratic island of Taiwan. The Ministry of Defense in Taipei has already stated that it will not rely solely on the eastern coast in its strategy. Moreover, it is easy to fly around Taiwan when no one is shooting at you. If China tries to resort to aggression, the islanders will defend themselves, and we will see how many planes and ships make it to the east coast, and whether such an attack on democracy will end with a change of government and political regime in Beijing itself.